Welcome to TP Talks, PwC Global Transfer Pricing podcast series. My name is Ugo Cannavale. I'm the transfer pricing leader for PwC Italy and I'm based in Milan. I want to welcome our listeners to our next episode. Today, we plan to discuss operational transfer pricing, or OTP, from its increasing importance to scalability and practical considerations. First, let me introduce our speakers. We have Antonino De Benedictis, Head of Operational Transfer Pricing for EMEA, based in London, and Andrew Hwang, Head of Operational Transfer Pricing for Americas, based in New York. Welcome to you all.
Thanks, Ugo. Thanks for the introduction. Happy to be here.
Ugo, likewise. Happy to talk about OTP anytime.
Okay, so let's get started. Anto, can you start with the definition of what operational transfer pricing is and why it is becoming increasingly a priority for in-house tax and finance professionals?
Sure, thanks, Ugo. So operational transfer pricing, in our views, helps our clients with every aspect of the implementation of TP policies, from process design all the way to execution and maintenance. So just to give you some examples and typical use cases, things like monitoring your margins, things like calculating intercompany recharges and fees, calculating transfer pricing for products, for goods, calculating year-end transfer pricing adjustments, and segmenting your P&Ls from a transfer pricing sort of point of view. So why it is important and why it's been a topic of conversation more and more in the last few years. One, first of all, I say globally there's a trend in improving real-time reporting, though there's a lot of variability across in terms of requirements by territory and regions. The compliance landscape is becoming more and more complex by the day. So as an example, take the introduction of Pillar 2 rules and public CBCR and what pressure they're going to put on finance and tax department to make sure that they can deliver the right numbers in time, right? In response to all of this, global organizations have been posing a real focus on real-time access to data and financial reports and insights. So a big trend that we're seeing out there is, as an example, organization trying to reduce the uncertainty at year end by as an example, getting the transfer pricing right in the first place and in reducing larger end adjustments. Now, 4 things to share in terms of what I see the trend out there on operational transfer pricing, why it's becoming a topic of conversation, the top 5 of a head of tax agenda. First of all, there's an increase in audit activity. Second, there's tightening regulation, especially as I've seen across EMEA, but I'm sure also in other parts of the world. Focus on efficiency savings and making sure organizations pay the right level of taxes, not only corporate tax, but also indirect tax and customs. And lastly, there's a wave of finance transformation out there that has been accelerated by the drive and to the need of organizations to upgrade the ERP systems and adoption of technology across the board.
And the topic of OTP is not just limited to transfer pricing, is it? From what I understood, the area of OTP can provide significant value and benefits for the broader finance functions and C-suite. Andrew, what are some of the commercial areas for which OTP can add value?
Yep, thanks, Ugo. As Anto mentioned, operation transfer pricing has its origin on intercompany transactions. So if companies have cross-border transaction, they need to think about OTP. But what are the areas? It's not just about tax compliance, but it's adding value to the business operation, supply chain, finance, treasury, all the way to the C-suite. Let me give you some examples there. So certainly, one use case that OTP is closely aligned is commercial level profitability. So this is fully loaded profitability at the product family level, product level, or all the way to the SKU level. And that's something many companies cannot easily find. And by sort of integrating operation transfer pricing process into it, that is something you can achieve. And we see it often a lot in pharma companies. Another area that OTP touches upon is R&D or IT recharges. Companies are already doing it, but certainly, aligning it for the sort of tax compliance and transfer pricing regulation harmonizes your management recharges to the legal entity recharges. And that leads to helping better with the legal entity forecasting and managing your effective tax rate. And finally, I think one of the new trends we see with the OTP sort of process and concepts is the ESG reporting. So being able to report carbon footprint across the value chain and modeling target against the ESG targets, that sounds suspiciously like operation and transfer pricing processes. So that's an area that companies are exploring, leveraging OTP process into the ESG reporting. I mean, Ugo, it's not about just tax and transfer pricing being all about compliance only, but being a business partner from the supply chain, business operations, treasury, and finance of the companies as well.
Thank you. It seems evident that OTP has a place in a large-scale transformation, both from a TP and broader finance function. But what would you say to the tax director of a small to mid-sized company? Anto and Andrew, is OTP still an option?
Thanks, Ugo. That's a really good question. Just to give you a very, very short answer, I think the reality is OTP is always an option, no matter what the size of the organization is. Now, when you look at large-scale operational transfer pricing projects, normally these are driven by finance or other parts of the business, and it doesn't mean that the budget for tax is large, first of all. So often there's an opportunity for the tax and transfer pricing in the department to join those larger scale finance transformation projects. So every organization virtually that we have in our client list is going through some sort of transformation at the moment. And there is a real range in terms of fees or what our clients spend and invest. Now, one of the things that I will say, and you probably hear it from my colleagues over the rest of the podcast, is there is a real focus from transfer pricing departments to work in a more integrated fashion with other areas of the business. So if there's a shared business case, as an example of profitability, sort of management and cost management, so the shared business case with other parts of the businesses, now this is no longer a purely transfer pricing project, and the budget can come from different parts of the business to finance this. Now, having said that, there are clearly a number of options on the table that depart from that large ERP scale transformation, and they range from smaller / tactical type of automation to middleware. I was going to ask Andrew to take on the answer to this.
Thanks, Anto. So Ugo, as Anto mentioned, if there's an opportunity to leverage your ERP program to improve the operation of transfer pricing, by all means, companies should take advantage of it. But that's not always the case, right? So sometimes upgrade has been done, sometimes there's no budget, there's no institutional support. But that doesn't mean that there aren't sort of OTP projects that our clients cannot take on. So I'll give you a couple of examples. One's pharma client, fairly decent size, but they were in the middle of the journey on the integrating to ERP. And they said, hey, we cannot wait 2-3 years. What can be done to integrate two main systems to measure the product profitability and TP adjustment? So we work with them to look at different options that are out there. And there are multiple vendors that offer what we call middleware solutions. So it's not core ERP solution from SAP and Oracle, but there are vendors, they say, hey, we can integrate with multiple ERPs and help you set up segmented P&L and TP adjustment. So that probably was about a 9-month project, but much shorter than ERP changes, and they were to achieve performing TP adjustment from sort of 1 week time at the year end down to 2 days, because obviously they need to review and stuff. Another example I want to give you is a fintech company. And they already had a legacy like IT application that does service fee allocations. But it was static, hard to update with the latest regulation changes, whatnot. And then, we would have to open up a ticket to get any changes done by the IT. So they went ahead and went down the what we call like digital automation. So there are workflows out there that are both, open source or licensed that help you build almost like a SQL type of, logic to transform the data, build the cost pool, build the allocation keys, and do the charge out all the way to the journal entries. That was about 6-month project, again, much shorter, but they were to achieve not only the same level of detail, but much faster performance in terms of turning things around, because digital tools these days, even if you're running on a desktop computer, has come a long way from 10, 15 years ago. So I want to sort of end with, it's not only about ERP, it's not only about large scale programs. There are things that small to mid-sized companies can do in terms of improving their operation and transfer pricing process.
Thank you, Anto and Andrew. So let's talk about OTP from a practical perspective. How would the stakeholders, such as tax directors, navigate their internal organization to move forward? To whom and what questions should they ask? Anto, do you want to take this one?
Sure, Ugo, thank you. So this is a very good question, quite interesting, for me as an ex in-house sort of transfer pricing director. There's a few things to think about, right? One, and my most important, recommendation in this space is just to keep the, curiosity around what the rest of the finance function is doing, right? So as an example, what is level of finance and data automation out there? What systems and platform are currently being used? What other use cases you can find other parts of the organization being interested in, right? So in my experience, you will find a lot of partners in this journey if you just ask the right questions at the right people, in the right forums, right? As an example, find people within the marketing sort of organization, in a commercial organization that are interested in getting further insights into the profitability of products or services, right? Secondly, it's important to understand what your journey looks like. So, as I said sort of previously, as I have alluded, a lot of organizations are undergoing change in some shape or form. Looking at a ERP journey, the enterprise performance management tools, and thinking about what tech tools, what technology the IT department is actually thinking in terms of streamlining for for the rest of the business. So really have an understanding of that roadmap of that journey could be making a difference here. Have a clear idea who your stakeholders are in the business. So connected to to the other points, ensuring that there is a stakeholder map and understanding what are the different agendas of the different stakeholders. And I think my last point is use the advisors in a way that allows you to sort of keep up to speed and up to date with the most recent trends, keep up to date with how technology is being leveraged, not just by the business, by tax and finance, and ensure that that again you can use all of that to build your business cases.
Great points, Anto. Thank you. So we discussed several aspects of OTP, from its increasing importance in reporting strategy to scalability to building support for an OTP solution. What additional thoughts or takeaways are on your mind? Anto, let's start with you, followed by Andrew.
Thanks, Ugo. So there's 3 key things for me to take away from this conversation and to reflect on. One, the first one is we sort of demystified the fact that we don't need large budgets to add value from an operational OTP standpoint, right? So there's different things that organization can think about in terms of making their operational OTP execution more efficient, faster, more more integrated. The second thing is think about operational transfer pricing as a catalyst, not just to unlock potential in the tax area, but actually to open up other business cases and actually open up a dialogue with other parts of the business, like in finance, IT, and other kind of front office parts of the business. The third is what we are observing out there, and it's been alluded a number of times, is the tax profession as we knew it in the oldest century is finished. And there's a new skill set out there that needs to be navigated. And that's the complexity for organization will be to find the right resource that have not only the tax skills and experience, but actually are abreast of sort of changes in the technology landscape. They're good with data. They understand how data moves in the organization, and they understand how transformation is impacting not just their part of the business, but the whole organization.
Ugo, I think one thing to keep in mind is the pace of technology change has been accelerating, including cloud and artificial intelligence, AI. I mean, in fact, there are companies looking into leveraging AI for data cleansing, automated mapping, and report creation, things that we used to use bots for. But what's most important is leverage the technology you have in your organization. If you can get support from your finance, IT, for function to extend their tools to help with the OTP process and automation, you should definitely start the journey there, because leveraging the asset you have is a message that your business stakeholders would love. But the final takeaway is really to be curious. Don't be scared about change of pace or the regulations that are out there. This is a continuous journey. You need to reach out and be a customer and both the information provider to your business stakeholders. So always look for opportunity to do things better and just help your companies with the end-to-end transfer pricing processes. So just stay connected with the relevant, finance, IT teams. Speak to your, outside advisor as needed on what other companies are doing, and look for opportunity to jump in and start something small in your OTP journey.
Thank you, Anto and Andrew, for joining me today. I also want to thank you, our listeners. We will be back next month with another episode. Until then, thanks for listening and have a great day.
This podcast is brought to you by PwC, all rights reserved. PwC refers to the U.S. member firm or one of its subsidiaries or affiliates and may sometimes refer to the PwC network. Each member firm is a separate legal entity. Please see www.pwc.com/structure for further details. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be used as a substitute for consultation with professional advisors.